Hey, asshat, can you feel this? Not my squirrel arms!
Oh, you muddy fugglers! Get in here, sit down, we're going to read some news. What kind of culture will grow around VR communities? It's more of a novelty at the moment. The more convincing it is, the more I think it will be part of our world, and a whole bunch of us, combined with AI, chatbots and stuff, are just going to get sucked into a virtual world, in my opinion. Well, on this article from Vice, written by George Francis Lee, phantom pain in the ass. The VR gamers who claim they experience phantom pain are the internet's biggest crybabies. But do they deserve to be tormented by YouTube trolls? No, is my answer. Don't troll people. We're looking for retards, the hot anime girl tells me, albeit with the voice of a 20-something Australian man. I've joined my first world in VR Chat, a virtual reality platform that lets you explore any number of limitless user-created realms by beaming them straight into some plastic goggles on your head. Joining me on my maiden voyage are two intrepid hunters from down under who also happen to be popping their VR Chat cherry, and they waste no time in telling me their plan for the evening to find freaks. VR Chat is a sort of online hangout game that would be fairly innocuous were it not full of racists, furries and trolls. Its public lobbies holding pens for those who find themselves in between worlds are a cacophony of slurs and copyright infringement which, if you're anxious about such things, kids can access with ease. Sounds similar to Roblox. It's existed since 2014 but has punctured the public consciousness recently thanks to a ceaseless torrent of cringe-hunting videos made by outsider YouTubers who gatecrash VR Chat with the express intent of finding and exploiting weirdos. Furries having e-sex, military service roleplayers, age regressors, groomers, cuddle puddlers, what the heck is that, and performative crash-out merchants are all considered fair game in the quest for views and revenue. Yet there is one group that enrages the interlopers and rakes in more hate watchers than any other. Those who claim to have phantom sense. These VR users insist that they physically feel things that happen to them in-game, a mismatch of sensory input comparable to well-known rubber hand illusion. It feels like heat, it feels like energy. If somebody gets close to you in-game, you feel a warm sensation in the area being touched, says Amzi, an autistic femboy from Canada who's logged 5,000 hours in VR Chat. In most other VR games, this kind of proximity might come from dodging heavy gunfire, but in VR Chat it tends to come from hugging and head patting. There's a belief within the community that phantom sense can be developed like a muscle, with more hours in-game resulting in a stronger response, a convenient barrier of entry for the uninitiated that also happens to confer status upon VR Chat obsessives. I was 1,000 hours before I started feeling anything, Andy explains. I was definitely really skeptical about it. I didn't think it was a thing at all until I started feeling sensation around my face. You know what's also an interesting phantom feeling? Back in ye olde days of cell phones like the Nokia whatsamajig, when phones used to vibrate more, you'd have your phone in your pocket maybe on vibrate, and sometimes you get like a phantom vibrate where you'd think a call came in but actually it was something else that you'd misattributed to your phone in your pocket. So I understand this phantom sensation. I wonder if many people have that actually. I think this is perhaps based upon that. It's a form of synesthesia. The first time I experienced it, I was hanging out with friends who liked to be very hands-on. They touched my face, gave me a head pat. They'd move their hands around my eyes and I was like, whoa, this is super intense. Amzi first got into the game during the pandemic and now says he feels sensation in his face and arms. He is a dedicated VR Chat player, choosing to fall asleep on the game multiple times a week, wired to a setup that costs him thousands of dollars. But if VR Chat opens a window to IRL socializing, then bullying, harassment and verbal abuse must float in on a draft. It's no understatement to say that those claiming to have phantom senses are loathed by the wider gaming community. Some detest a group they believe has tarnished their favourite virtual hangout spot, while others just can't bear the levels of cringe. Whether you believe it or not, the phenomenon is now so notorious that it's spawned a micro-industry of trainers offering one-to-one sessions to those looking to develop their own phantom sense capabilities. Kogo, a non-binary 26-year-old from Nevada, is one of them. People most affected by phantom senses are under the influence of something, she tells me. Drinking, smoking, and drugs seem to be a common poison for VR chat users. Intoxicants aren't the only vices at play. Where there are people, there is sex, and some claim that phantom senses elevate the virtual intimacy found in the game's more shadowy corners. Kogo tells me that this side of VR chat is also a great way to train. I've accidentally triggered my partner's phantom sense in places that were not safe for work, to say the least. There are thousands like this. Abe, a 38-year-old 3D artist, says that when playing VR chat, he can feel the heat of a virtual fire and smell the needles of a virtual cedar forest. Fenny, a 23-year-old trans girl who moderates a furry server, claims to experience phantom sense all over her avatar's body. Covin, an autistic furry from Illinois, says the agony of a virtual sword slashing into his virtual torso stings as if it were actually happening to him, actually. Of all the different forms of phantom sense, the most notorious is phantom pain. It has become a meme in and of itself, immortalized by the phrase "because I have phantom pain," screamed by a VR chat player as he was begging a YouTube troll to stop stabbing his avatar in the eyes. Oh blimey, that's a bit harsh. It was this video that first caught the attention of Australian YouTuber Wheezy, who tells me about the time he went to a VR furry karaoke bar and threw tomatoes at a performer who pleaded with him to stop because it hurt so much. I don't believe it's real, he says when I ask why. Phantom pain comes from when someone is missing a limb. I saw this video where a player walked through someone's avatar and they started screaming in agony, saying they had phantom pain. He continues, and I thought, what is this? Some weirdness, that's what it is. You know it. Since then, Wheezy has spent hours lurking in the game. His reasons for doing so might be more understandable than they first appear. VR chat is currently experiencing a gold rush, one offering cringe content creators the chance to make some serious money, so long as they are able to spread footage of their trolling across the virtual streaming and social media ecosystem. Josh, who goes by Jonk Strap Online, okay, good one sir, jumps on VR chat once a week for his more than 44,000 YouTube subscribers and usually finds someone who claims to have phantom pain. We will try poking them when we are out of vision and they don't react whatsoever, he says. It's kind of insulting to those who actually have missing limbs and experience the legitimate part of this phenomenon. It's clear that many of the trolls aren't kind people. On the more misanthropic side is Devil Duck, who I find in a public world. I troll a lot, you know, I do weird shiz, he tells me. One time, I graped a guy in-game, a guy with phantom sense. You bloody reprobate. I have no doubt that some people have these phantom experiences because I know that synesthesia is a thing, and that's not a mystery. Wexy takes me on a tour of some popular cringe cruising spots, where we came across an elderly sounding man who implies that he may have killed 15 of his cats. His avatar, a lanky fox, is being baited by a low-level troll not too dissimilar to my fixer, with loaded questions that are intended to keep him talking for the amusement of an audience. When it comes to VR chat, you become the cameraman, Wexy informs me. You don't really troll, you ask a question and get led down a rabbit hole until it gets darker and darker. Wexy estimates that 25% of all the players on VR chat are there to cause grief to others, even if they're just doing it for kicks and not monetizable videos. I would not play this game unironically, he insists. I play this game for content because I can't stand the people. Because of this, the game's virtual bars and clubs have had to call in unpaid bouncers, particularly in the worlds most inhabited by furries. Stepping into one of the popular Black Cat bars for the first time, I'm asked for my date of birth by a doorman. Yet since VR chat is free and can be played even without a headset, it feels like they're fighting a losing battle. I'm fairly sure multiple children get in by simply memorizing when current 18-year-olds were born. Anyone playing without VR gear is an instant red flag, as are those marked with suspicious visitor tag, denoting the newness of the game. The paranoia is palpable, and the volunteer staff aren't afraid to ban anyone over the most minor suspicion. They're there to cause trouble, whether it's slapping someone's avatar or refusing to stop throwing virtual fruit around. In many ways, the caution makes sense. As you may have surmised, a chunk of VR chat's user base is queer, trans, autistic, or furry, or some combination. I thought queer was an umbrella that was above all trans and furry people. Not autistic, you're not necessarily queer if you're autistic. Although I think the Venn diagram there has got quite a bit of an overlap. Trans Academy, a non-profit providing inclusive virtual environments for the transgender community, has 45,000 VR chat group members. This game helped me discover my bisexuality, says Amzi, who credits VR chat with helping him come out to his homophobic family. He jokes about the VR chat to femboy pipeline and the widespread meme, this game will turn you gay. But even in a place like VR chat where anyone can find a community, people have their limits. Boredom, mental illness, and attention seeking have all been suggested to me as the real underlying causes of phantom sense, not just by trolls but furries too. I think it's also down to repetition. There's a pecking order to phantom sense, and even those who report having felt the occasional twinge roll their eyes at the more extreme ends of the phantom spectrum. Users are also growing tired of feeling embarrassed by association when they see the profitable viral TikTok and YouTube meltdowns. People are looking down at VR chat players saying they're just a cesspool of mental illness and this platform sense stuff is ridiculous, Amzi bemoans, adding that a lot of people who occupy the VR chat worlds are mentally not at all there sometimes. Maybe. But that's also just a general thing in society nowadays. Mental illness is being protected and platformed, and so, whatever. What does it mean to be mentally ill? What does it mean? It means not functioning within society and being a danger to yourself and others. So if you're different, if you're a furry, I may think that's weird, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you are a danger to society. Similarly with trans people, you are what you are. You be you. There are other gripes. Many point out that the phrase phantom pain is at least halfway borrowed from the phantom limb experience by amputees in arms and legs that are no longer there. One-Leg Bandit, a 26-year-old furry from Scotland who lost his leg battling cancer, takes offence to the term's appropriation, and has even made TikTok PSAs railing against it. I know what genuine phantom pain sensation is, he tells me. If people knew what it actually felt like, they wouldn't be deluding themselves into believing they had it. Still, even Bandit occasionally worries that he might be on the wrong side of history. Perhaps this is what, trolls aside, really unites the players of VR chat. Kind of radical sympathy, a patience for other people's ideas that goes beyond what you'd find in regular society. In VR chat, you can be a fox, a child, a spouse, anything you like. Those who gather in such places, where the wildest fantasies can be indulged, from role-playing as the dad of a virtual family or being a steampunk wolf that runs a bar for weird fetishists, don't tend to cast the first stone. It's like amputees decades back, Bandit muses. When they first told doctors they could feel limbs that didn't exist, they got called crazy. So am I just ignorant for not believing this feeling that so many people consistently say they experience, or are they truly delusional? Footnotes. In 2016, a scientist in Italy used this party trick to fool volunteers into thinking a rubber glove was part of their own body. Their brains confused visual information with sensations of touch produced by the scientist stroking their middle finger and the middle finger of the lifelike rubber glove simultaneously. I've seen experiments with that. And it's a real experience. It's a real thing. So I wouldn't troll these people. If that's what you like to do, if you like to dress up. I dress up as a pig. So I would be a hypocrite to say something wrong with you, because there's clearly something quite wrong with me. Imagine if we had a situation where you could actually impart some physical experiences in game. I don't know how difficult that is. Could you imagine a situation where you had an array of fans or things that could shoot air in certain positions? Let's say somebody touches your hand. If something could shoot your hand with a blast of wind, then you would feel it then, wouldn't you? So you could emulate the basics of touch within a virtual environment doing that. I know in the beginnings of VR a few years ago, they required a bunch of cameras to be set up around a room to make sure that you are being fully tracked. And now the modern Meta Quests do all the tracking internally, so you don't need all those things. But could you imagine a situation where you would perhaps have a room where you position a bunch of air extruders, I don't know, around you? Perhaps you have 8 around you that could then point at different parts of your body, maybe. I guess if you're tethered centrally, and you could have maybe some rings around you that could project air at you at specific points. Perhaps they have nozzles that can move around and point. Imagine air as lasers. Is that possible? Air lasers? Asers? There we go. I've coined a phrase. We're going to have some asers We're going to make you feel virtual things in the virtual world, maybe. There you go, VR chat. It's a bit weird, but don't be too mean to them. They're just a bunch of people, and they feel funny stuff. Thank you for joining me. Make sure you hit that like button if you like me. If you don't like me, then why are you here? Nobody knows. But that is it. I have nothing more to say, except Pigwig out.
Oink, oinkity, snort, snuffle, snuffle, squee, oink, oink, ree, squeal, snort, snort, oinkity, squee. Oink, oink, oinkity, squee, squee, ree, 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 snuffle, snort, squeal, squeal, oinkity, oink, snort, snort, squee, oink, 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 ree, 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 oh. Snort, snuffle, oink, squee, squeal, ree, snort, oinkity, oinkity, oink, oink, snuffle, ree, squee, snort, oink, squeal. Oink, oink, oinkity, squee, squee, ree, 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 snuffle, snort, squeal, squeal, oinkity, oink, snort, snort, squee, oink, 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 ree, 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 oh. Oink, oinkity, snort, snuffle, snuffle, squee, oinkity, oink, oink, snuffle, ree, squee, snort, oink, squeal. Oink, oink, oinkity, squee, squee, ree, 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 snuffle, snort, squeal, squeal, oinkity, oink, snort, snort, squee, oink, 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 ree, 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 oh. Squeal, squeal. Snort, snuffle, oink, ree, squeal, ree, snort, oinky, oinkity, oink, 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 snuffle, ree, squee, snort, oink, squeal, oink, oink, oinkity, squee, squee, ree, 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 snuffle, snort, squeal, squeal, oinky, oink, snort, snort, squee, oink, 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 oink.